Hey guys, welcome back to the XP podcast for episode 4. With me, I have Abhimanyu, Ashish, and Akash. And always, I'm your host of this episode, Saf Khan. So let's just jump right into it.
Hell yeah, Saf. I'm so
nice Philip DeFranco reference.
You know how it is. We have to bring the Philip DeFranco reference in here because, we are basically stealing his format.
All right, let's begin.
All right, Seth, you want to introduce the articles?
So for today, we have 4 articles that we're going to talk about. Now, the first one is going to be about Elon Musk and a very nice thing that he did to some students at a Flint school. The next one is the New Zealand tragedy that happened the past week. And after that, we're going to have Trump's statement about Israel and their whole sovereignty. And after that, we're going to finish off with the Robert Mueller investigation that we have been talking for the past 3 episodes.
All right, so I'll take it off with the first article with Elon Musk. And basically, the good thing that he did was he paid a surprise visit to Flint, to a school in Flint, Michigan. And he gave every single student their own laptop. And he also promised to take some of them for a tour of his SpaceX factory in California. So basically, this is just a philanthropic act from the Elon Musk Foundation, and they've provided more than $400,000 to help provide laptops as the city recovers from their widely known crisis with lead-tainted water. And the schools are also using another separate grant from Elon Musk of $480,000 for water filtration. So this is just promoting the safety and health of all the students and teachers and staff working at these schools, while also giving students the technology required to better further themselves in their education. So what do you guys think about this?
I think it's hella cool, bro. Elon Musk is he's obviously a billionaire. He has a huge role in the tech atmosphere in Silicon Valley and in the world today. So him giving back to communities in Flint, which are extremely underprivileged right now due to what's been going on, and aren't really being provided all the necessary resources to further their education in this new globalized and tech-filled world, is really cool.
Yeah, I mean, I think that when you're in a position like Elon Musk is in, you always sort of have, it's sort of expected that you are proactive with what you're doing. Whenever you have, since Elon Musk is a billionaire, since he has this money, it's sort of, our society assumes that this money is going to be used to help the future generation. And Elon Musk being proactive, he took a very nice step here by going to Flint, a school that obviously giving every student a laptop in Flint is going to be a lot more meaningful, primarily because this is a big step in that direction for a lot of these students. And just in an increasingly tech-filled world, these students being given an opportunity that they might not have is something really monumental. Because, I mean, Elon Musk, obviously, pretty much the entire world knows who this guy is. I mean, he's very intelligent. He owns a lot of different companies. He's very versatile in what he's done with things like SpaceX and Tesla. So obviously people are going to be inspired by him when he does something like this. So it was definitely a nice experience for the students at the school as well. And so I think that him also offering to give them a tour of his rocket factory in California adds to that as well.
See, not only that, but this is actually a great publicity thing for Elon Musk. Just like this week or the last week, Tesla unveiled their Model Y, which is basically going to be their new compact SUV, hybrid type car. And with this just unveiling and the great thing that he just did at Flint is going to boost Tesla sales and is obviously going to make Tesla look like a better company. So as a marketing wise, it's actually a very strategic move that Elon Musk did.
You know,
So-
I don't really think that it's more of like marketing for the company, but more for like marketing himself. Because recently Elon Musk has been like covered in controversy and SEC investigations due to his online activities and stuff. And his standing in his own company, Tesla, has actually been weaning. Right, there have been many who called for him to step down from the role as CEO. So I think this is one of the moves that he's making, not primarily as a move to boost his image, because obviously like Elon Musk has talked about philanthropy and is very mindful about the society that we're in. From all the interviews that he's given, but it does definitely boost his image within the company and throughout the world.
Well, I mean, I don't necessarily think that just because he's given these interviews, seen as this type of person. I mean, if you look at it, interviews are nothing without concrete proof. I mean, you can say whatever the heck you want, but you have to be able to back it up in some way. So the when Elon Musk gives these types of interviews, but he doesn't really offer anything to support this mindset, that doesn't really add to the values. So with Elon Musk actually doing something here, giving every student in this Flint school a laptop, that also adds to his publicity.
No, yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. I'm just saying that like we know that Elon Musk is very mindful of society, and everyone knows his opinion on AI and on the reason why he started SpaceX and like the motivations behind everything that he tries to do. Have always been mindful of like, what's the future of society going to be? Where should we be in the next 30, 40 years? So like obviously he's not like a Steve Jobs where it's like all about the money and trying to boost himself in a more selfish way. I think, at least in my personal opinion, that Elon Musk is a very altruistic person, and that's one of the reasons why he donated to Flint.
All right, I see what you're saying.
Is he necessarily altruistic though? Because what you're saying is he is getting the gain of public benefit, and like his whole reputation is going up. So is that necessarily altruism, or just like him using this situation to look better in terms of society?
Sure,
If the
I doubt that
intended
he's
goal-
using this.
But yeah, no, if
Because-
the intended goal was to get a better personal image, then sure, you can say that it's not considered altruism. But in this situation, I don't think he's doing it to better his personal image. Sure, it's one of the effects that it has, but I don't think it's the primary effect that was intended.
Yeah, if it was for that reason, we would see a lot more about this. I mean, we just saw this on Click on Detroit for your viewers. That's a local online news website for Detroit, and we just saw it on there. Like, there's been no indication on like Twitter or anything. We haven't really seen many other articles on this.
Well, then again, this has been a fairly recent topic. Just looking at the article, it's actually just posted like 4 hours ago, so it's actually quite recent. On
Yeah,
today's
I
post.
Article was
think- I think
posted
that
quite
what-
recently.
Yeah.
I think that what he's just trying to say is that
right now that's irrelevant. Like
Mm-hmm.
everyone knows,
it's a lot more. The medium is anyway. Since this is a local news outlet, it's obviously not being blown to that extent of a proportion that it would be useful for Elon Musk just gaining popularity. I think that his intentions were good here, and even though he might have gained a boost in popularity from this, I don't think it was substantial enough to be motivated by that cause only.
Yeah, it definitely was not the main goal, right? I mean, it'd be really expensive main goal if he were doing that. He gave like almost $1 million to Flint,
Mm-hmm.
right? And 424,000 of that was like free computers for Flint students. I doubt anyone would pay $1 million just to boost their image a little bit on some small, well, relatively small, big in our area, but some relatively small, news outlet. I mean, to be fair, this article was written by the Associated Press, which is pretty widely known, but we haven't really seen it outside of the area.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah. Okay. So, what do you guys think about like what's happening in Flint? Like, that's the main issue that Elon Musk is trying to invest in. But like, the Flint problem has been such an apparent one for a quite a long time now. And I feel like there's been a lot of investments going into Flint, but like, not I don't know if much has come out of it. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
I
I would
mean,
say it's very substantial that Elon Musk picked Flint specifically. So I definitely think that he wasn't just, going to some school that looked like it needed more funding in terms of technology and invest in that. Because if you look at it through that outlet, there's a lot more places other than just Flint, even in Michigan itself, that could use that money as well. I think, yeah, there's definitely a reason that he went to Flint specifically because of the water crisis and things that previously occurred. Because the article also states that the schools were using a Musk grant as well for $480,000 just for water, for the purposes of water filtration itself. So I definitely think that this whole thing and all these acts of kindness towards Flint are rooted in the Flint water crisis, or at least they started occurring after the Flint water crisis. And I think that because of the Flint water crisis, I mean, if you look at it, it affected adults, and a lot of what the Flint water crisis did was actually affect children, and it affected students because of lead contamination. Obviously, the negative impacts on the brain and learning. So I think that because of that, we have a lot more. Donations coming in through an educational perspective, and I think that in terms of this, what Elon Musk did, I definitely think that that was a useful investment and will pay off in the future.
here I feel like what the fact that Elon Musk has done this recently is very important because this Flint water crisis story is pretty old, right? And with the news cycles nowadays, people lose interest in certain crises fairly quickly. So, regarding Flint, there isn't really like much coverage about it right now, even though the crisis is still going on. Obviously, it had really big, profound effects on our state because, as you can see, Rick Snyder is no longer a governor, right? And we have a Democrat as our governor right now. It created this whole political shift within our own state, right? And you could argue that like it caused like some support for Donald Trump, who kept on saying that he will, back up Flint and that he will do stuff for Flint when, President Obama's reaction to it wasn't as strong as people would have wanted.
See, the only thing is, it seems like at today's day and age, Flint has become something that people put on the back burner because it's not talked about as much, and it seems like people forgot it. So like, forgot about the whole situation. So like, how do you guys just think about that whole situation? Like, do you see any updates recently about Flint? Like, do you think that people care as much as they used to?
I
No.
feel like yeah, I don't think so either. Like I've seen like every other week, I'll see like a news article that's like, oh, something's being done in Flint, but like it's not super substantial, and it's repetitive. It's every single like it's every other week. It's like the same thing is happening, and I don't know. I feel like not much is being done to permanently fix the problem.
I mean, I only think that the Flint water crisis got was blown out of proportion, or not blown out of proportion, but focused on so much when it first came to surface was because of the fact that the government had actually messed up, and I think that that's why a lot of people fixated, not because of the actual issue itself, not because that there was lead contamination in the water, but just because it wasn't fixed for such a long time, and the government really could not act on it until people started reacting to the situation. So I think that because of that, there was a lot of initial focus on the Flint water crisis. But now that the situation sort of returned back to normal, people are just slowly forgetting about it.
All right, so Should we switch to the next article?
Yeah, I feel like we should start talking about the next article. So, Avi, do you want to cover this one?
Yeah, sure. All right. So the second article is about. So there was actually about dozens of people killed in attack actually in a place known as Christchurch. And so basically what happened here was a lot of the victims who were injured had a lot of multiple surgeries, and so obviously this was a very severe incident. 34 patients actually, to give a specific number, are still receiving treatment at the Christchurch hospital. And so the police there aren't actually talking about whether there were any other suspects involved in the attack. They did mention one suspect though. There's a suspected shooter named Brenton Tarrant, and he's been charged with murder on the attack in 2 mosques in Christchurch, according to the police commissioner, Mike Bush. And so what happened was this supposed shooter, Brendan Tarrant, who actually came here, he attacked this mosque and basically killed a bunch of people. So that's the gist of it. And so there was actually one person involved in this incident who actually sort of helped the situation out. He had 4 children actually, and he actually helped chase the gunman away, and he was able to get himself out of the situation. He wasn't injured, but he did commit sort of an altruistic act in that regard. Even though he had 4 children in the mosque, he sort of looked out for the safety of everyone there and took matters into his own hand.
Yeah. So, what do you guys think of the motivations for the attack? Like, do you think that this was, driven by like a political type of action, or do you think it was more religious?
It was like most definitely like a. It was probably most definitely like a hate crime. I don't think there was any like real political gain going through out of it. If anything, it actually hurts anti-Muslim people, cause this whole thing was actually pretty bad since like multiple people died, around like 50 people died. So it definitely did not help anti-Muslims' case, and it actually just strengthened the country. Cause this week, multiple people came back to that mosque, and lots of services came out. Lots of Muslims came out, and there was like a lot of support for those people who did come to that mosque again after that horrible shooting.
Yeah. So, I mean, what do you guys think like should be done in a situation like this? Like, Ali was mentioning in the article, it stated one of the men in there. He had 4 children, but he still decided to, attempt to save the lives of everyone in there. Do you think that's the best course of action, is just to stand up against whoever is the attacker? Or do you think, like, there should be more of a group effort?
See, we all have that perception that we want to be the hero in these types of scenarios, but honestly, I feel like the best course of action should actually be to find cover and not try to help, because at the end, you can hurt yourself, and a collective effort may do well, but it can cause more harm than good, because you're looking at someone who has a gun versus someone who have multiple people with fists, right? Who are using their bodies and they're trying to do it. I feel like the best thing in these types of situations is to be a little selfish, not care what's so much about other people, and try to focus on you and your family. And if you do have the ability, you should definitely go for it, but your first overall priority should be your own safety.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna liken this situation to something that happened recently. In U of M, where apparently there was a shooter, but it turns out it was just a bunch of girls popping balloons. But the reaction from the police on campus their steps were run, hide, and fight.
Some
So-
crazy stuff, bro.
I know, right? I mean, and that I guess that makes sense. Is the first your first action should be to run away, as like get away from the scenario as fast as you can, and if that's not an option, then you hide, attempt to like get out of the view of the shooter, and then if push comes to shove, just fight the homie.
Yeah, but
Is that what you just said?
Just fight the man, dude.
Oh my god.
you know, the biggest thing that comes out of this whole tragedy is like, yes, it does bring up a topic about guns and all that, but the bigger thing that I felt like it brought up is the whole use of Facebook Live. Facebook, this whole murder tragedy, this terrorist act, was broadcasted on Facebook Live. We've seen multiple tragedies happen where people kill themselves on Facebook Live, do other types of murders, literally assaulted some white kid who had like I think it had autism, and they Facebook Lived it. Do you think Facebook should be held more responsible for these actions? Because they're allowing a lot of people to use their platform to like show these horrible acts and tragedies. Like, what do you guys think should be done about like?
Here,
Because like,
I saw this thing on Twitter, right? Which had which talked about a statement that Facebook gave. I didn't actually see the statement, but you know, Twitter's reliable enough. It said that Facebook said that none of their moderators actually picked it up, and no one who was watching it. There's like what I think around 10,000 people watching this live stream. None of them reported this. They only reported it after the fact, and only like 20% of them did report it after the fact. No one who was watching it during the moment that the shooting occurred actually told Facebook or the authorities about this attack. So, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say that it was Facebook's fault, because, you know, they can't catch everything. But there's a lot of blame to go around. You know, what could have been done to prevent this? The rise of white nationalism across, you know, the world has really increased. There's a lot of, you know, bad feelings between the Muslim communities and a lot of the Western nations that they're living in.
Yeah, no, I think that's an inherent problem with social media in general. Just because, like, it's a platform where anyone, like, literally anyone can pick it up and have their own voice. So, while, like, in some situations it can be used for good things, there's always going to be some sort of, like, you know, some sort of extreme that just uses it for bad things, like in this situation.
Yeah, I definitely agree with Akash. I mean, with social media, there's just not really a lot of regulation. I mean, obviously Facebook and Twitter have their internal regulation. At the same time, they can't prevent everything from being posted on their platform, and at the same time, they don't really want to do that in the first place, because if you think about it, I mean, they're in it for the business as well, right? They're not going to be motivated to sort of flag these certain tweets and flag these certain Facebook posts. So obviously, when you have the issue of not everything being regulated to that extent, and when you have the freedom of people posting what they want, you're going to have this issue. But at the end of the day, it just comes down to how people interpret this, and how based on how people interpret this, what they'll do with the information that they see on these platforms.
Yeah, and I also think that the amount of people on social media also plays a factor, just because the sheer volume of how many people there are really plays a big role. I mean, like Ashish said, the moderators can't really find everything on the site, and it's usually just an inherent problem. Like, it's up to the community to stop these types of things from happening. And if they decide that they don't want to do it, then I don't really know who's to blame there or who's at fault.
Okay, so I'm gonna move on and ask Jacob what his opinion about the whole New Zealand situation is, and what he thinks about it since he just joined our podcast.
Well, so basically what we're seeing in a lot of the Western countries right now is we're seeing a theory called the replacement theory, which a lot of lower class people from Western nations, and including New Zealand and Australia, they feel a disadvantage, and that in the case of Charleston in South Carolina, they said the Jews will not replace us, but in this case, in Australia, in New Zealand, they're saying the Muslims and the foreigners are going to replace the white majority. So I think that personally one way to address this issue is that you need to understand, the politicians need to understand how the people are feeling, because if you ignore these views, this is the type of thing that will happen. And if you just disenfranchise these people that have these beliefs that their culture is going to die and that their nation is going to get taken over, as they put it, then they're always going to feel like they're on edge and that they need to do something because they view it as such a dire issue. So basically what I think should be happening is that I think the politicians should be addressing how these people feel without also condoning a lot of the neo-Nazi movements we're seeing in the Western world, and B, without necessarily, you don't have to legislate for these people, just understand their views and try to convince them, because without debate and without civil debate, democracy sort of it ends, and you see all these conflicts arising when we no longer have a civil democracy.
So that brings up a question about politicians. Now, did you guys see the video of the politician who was saying, if Muslims don't want to have these terror attacks, they should stop coming to our country? And then he got egged with a egg, and then he slapped the kid who did it. Did you guys see that video? Because it was trending a while ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a pretty funny video, I ain't gonna lie. But, like, what do you guys think about that whole stance about that politician that took? Because obviously, it is not going to be a fan of the masses. It does make sense, but in a simple-minded way where you're taking away a group of people's entrance to a country. But what do you guys think about that? Like, oh, if you don't want to get hurt, you should just stop coming to our country.
Okay, I mean, well, first of all, that's literally the equivalent of saying we don't have any gays in our. I mean, like, statements like that are not based off of. They're based off of some subjective reasoning in the first place, saying that if you don't wish to do this, then abort and forfeit one of your rights that are given to you. I mean, you can't really make that argument and win both ways. It's more of a situation like we need to fix the problem that this is happening, not just blame it on some circumstantial situation that's occurring in the first place. I mean, if you're going to say that terrorist attacks only happen because there's a certain race in our country, then getting rid of the race is pretty much the equivalent of what you're saying that we're not doing in the first place, which is the act of terrorism.
So do you guys think he deserved to be egged?
I mean, that's more of a problem of public indecency, or I mean, not that, but like basically just like, you know, disrespecting a public official. But
yeah,
I mean, I think he deserved it.
Because wasn't that kid 17, and then that guy just slapped him right after?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that politician's basically, his whole career is pretty much done, because he did slap a 17-year-old.
Wait, what now?
After the video ended, after the guy that got egged turned around, he slapped the 17-year-old kid that had done it.
And then he basically got into a fight with the 17-year-old where someone like had to push him back, and I had to break up the fight. So yeah.
I feel like these issues, especially with the egg, I feel like people are just gonna play it off. The slapping thing, maybe, but I feel like a small minority could play this into like, look how angry these white men are because, just how they are. I think his views should have been talked about, but the fact that he got coverage because of the egg thing, right? I don't know if people know his views. I just know that people know that he knows he got egged, and he got egged on live TV too. So
Yeah, pretty funny. So what the whole egg thing? It kind of relates, but like, what do you guys think about the whole thing that like, let's say I did something in the past where I tweeted something, and let's say I tweeted all N-words are infidels, okay? Let's say I just tweeted that, and I become super famous, right? And then someone uses that tweet against me. Do you think I should be punished for that crime? Let's say I was like 13 around this time when I tweeted this out. Do you guys think this whole blaming situation should occur? Because it is something that we are seeing a lot right now.
I
Yeah.
thought you were about to say Brett Kavanaugh, and I was like, what the hell?
So do you think people should cover up their insensitive tweets from the past, or do you think they should embrace them and say, yes, this was me, like Philip DeFranco does, like, yes, I did do this in the past, but I'm a different person now, and I've seen the errors of my ways. Do you think people should do that, or go for a different route?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I agree with you. I think that no individual is perfect, especially at such with Saf's example with the 13-year-old situation at such a young age. Obviously, there's going to be mistakes that you make, and acknowledging those in the future should not be harmful to you. In fact, it should be appreciated that you are being honest and open, because when it comes down, if you hide a certain situation, it comes out in the open, that hurts your reputation way more because of the fact that you are not owning up to what you've previously done, which is all about responsibility and accountability. It's something that's admired in our population today. So I think that it definitely should not be. I mean, obviously, there's a line with all situations, right? I mean, it depends on how serious what you said at that young age was. But if you have grown and you have changed, then I personally believe that you should be forgiven.
Okay, so
But
she,
as a
she's been
person-
quiet for a while. Yeah, Akash, we'll let you speak, but I want to see what Ashish's opinion is about this. Oh. You know me. So,
I'll cover the issue since Ashish will not. So basically, I think how you guys are thinking is how rational people would think, but the public, when they see just headlines of what's happened, that can completely ruin somebody's career, whether they say they've changed or not. So just the fact that they've said, apparently there's been a couple of football players that from 2007, 2008, and they tweeted out the N-word, when they were in high school or something like that. And they're now grown men, and that's clearly not how they talk. But the fact that that even happened on their specific Twitter account, that was the headline for multiple days. And so as bad as it seems that, you shouldn't be covering stuff up, unfortunately, I think for some issues you do have to. But then also, you can also see something like the Catholic Church, who historically has had an issue with pedophilia. And then what happened when they did not address the pedophilia, then the view of the Catholic Church just got even worse. And it's just become a reputation in American society that, Catholic Church equals pedophilia. It's not shocking. But now this current pope is trying to cover it up, or not cover it up, but address the feelings and address the actions of the priests, and trying to deal with the situation in public. So I think if he can do this, then it will make the situation better. But for now, it's just going to make the Catholic Church look really, really, really bad.
So speaking of situations that may go really, really, really bad, let's move on to the next topic of how Israel is on a brink of a disaster, and Trump just kind of made things worse. So, Akash, how about you talk about this article?
Actually, I think that was supposed to be Ashish's article.
Man, where is Ashish in this? Like, he's actually dead.
This kid is dead, dude.
Oh, sorry, my mic was off.
Yeah, right, bro.
Oh my god.
So speak about the Israel. We're on the Israel topic. We've just announced it. Please give us
you
a short.
just threw this on me, bro. This wasn't the article I'm supposed to do.
It literally is, bro.
You guys did not tell me this beforehand. This is
You're
very bad
actually
planning.
garbage. Know your article.
Yeah, this is very bad planning on the host side, Mr. Saf.
I'm just saying, you've been gone for like 10 minutes, bro. You've been gone for 10 minutes, bro. Like,
Well,
All right, let's go back. Let's go back to informational. All
Saf, so
right, let's go back to some information. All right.
All right, so this is an article, Times, called "Israel is on the brink of disaster. Trump just made things worse." Israel's right-wing leaders are reading signals from Washington as a green light. And this article is by Michael.
Okay, actually, shut up. You're actually just reading off the article. You didn't read anything. You're actually a waste of oxygen.
No, you literally just gave me this article just now.
No, I didn't. It was literally said before, bro.
If you were paying attention in the last 10 minutes, bro, you would realize that what article, dude. Get right.
So basically,
I told you not going to do this article.
okay, Ashish, please be quiet now. Okay, so basically, on April 9th, Israelis will go to polls to choose their next government. The campaign has largely been a referendum on whether Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu should remain Israel's leader in light of his expected indictment in 3 corruption cases for bribery and breach of trust, or should it be someone else who does not have these, these stains on their public view. So, the thing is, President Trump just kind of raised the risk. He wrote that it is time for the United States to fully recognize Israel's sovereignty over the Golan Heights, which is a critical strategic and a security importance to the state of Israel, and regional
Bro, no, you're reading off
stability.
the article.
I am reading the quote,
What?
bro. It is the quote. You're actually dumb. I'm reading a
Right
quote.
here. I think that homies should back up other homies. That is my opinion, right? So yeah, what Trump has been doing, you know,
Bro, you're actually a
is really
snitch,
good for the
bro.
global situation. Right? It is aiding the conflict, right? Is making tensions even worse. But at least he's backing up his homies, like a certain host I know.
What can I say? Maybe if only Israel was a good person and they listened to, Trump, maybe he
But
wouldn't be.
the thing here is that we clearly see that as a Muslim, you have a certain perspective that is biased. And the reason
Yes.
that this is biased is that because Muslim homies are supposed to back up other Muslim homies. Okay.
Jacob, you know I'm backing you up right now, bro.
Have not been backing me up, bro.
All right,
Bro.
yeah. Let's just
Let's
continue.
just
the discussion.
let's actually refrain back towards the article. We've had our fun. Our shit was actually kind of dumb, but let's go back towards the article. So
Yeah.
this basically brings up how Trump is kind of using his own powers as the United States, and the whole reputation that the United States has is it's trying to make Israel a more legitimate country in the eyes of, let's say, the whole world. So they're basically using how an area where the United States did not the United States, Israel did not have sovereignty. United States is basically acknowledging the fact that they do, and it's making them seem to be more of a legitimate country, and it's kind of a brink of how it's kind of bringing the tensions of the whole Palestine and Israel thing to more, because obviously Palestine is not going to be happy about this.
But I feel like a lot of the actions that our president does is just so that he can hype up his own political base.
It's a consolidated power. That's all it really is.
Yeah. And then also it really helps if you're having a lot of people question your authority to just push that focus on some other issue, which we have constantly seen this administration. As soon as something's going wrong in his cabinet or with him, and he tries to push the issue onto something that is not being focused on.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Mueller investigation, which I believe we'll be talking about soon, has also helped with them, like, being able to push certain issues that he's been doing currently and use the Mueller investigation as kind of a media drown out, to drown out all the noise about any, like, misstep that he did in the past weeks or whatever.
So the main thing that the article brought up was the whole Israel-Palestine conflict. Now, Jacob, you have quite of an opinion about the whole conflict. What do you think should be done to resolve this issue?
Well, I think, and this will be widely unpopular in Israel, is have clear defined borders right now, set them,
Yeah.
and then as soon as you set them, even if you don't acknowledge it as a country, as soon as you've done that, then I feel like it at least gives Palestinians some guarantee to what they view as their own land. And if you do that, I feel like a lot of the conflict will no longer arise. And also, what Palestine needs to be doing is, unfortunately, they need to be disassociating with what they view as their only option, which is Hamas. And as soon as they disassociate with Hamas, I believe that both sides could get better. But again, a lot of Palestinians view Hamas as their only chance of holding their land. And as they keep doing this, politicians like Benjamin Netanyahu just propagate this and say, oh, we need this land. Like, this is our land. And look at their savagery and what we deserve. and what they've taken from us. So as long as there's a terrorist group running Palestine, and as long as there are populist politicians in Israel, we're going to continue to see the conflict.
I
See,
agree.
the only thing,
Like the settlements that Israel's pushing into, you know, what's commonly regarded as Palestinian territory, is one of the biggest reasons why this conflict keeps on going on. And like Jacob said, nationalist leaders like Benjamin Netanyahu, Zionist leaders, hardcore Zionist leaders who are trying to, you know, keep this conflict going by claiming that all their land is theirs. I also agree with what Jacob said about Hamas. If anything, like the Palestinians need to have a secular, you know, security group, I would say, to help, you know, in defense purposes, because obviously we can't expect Palestinians to back down when Israeli security forces march in and with these settlements to hold on to land. But it's this Islamic association with their militant forces that really makes it hard for foreign governments in the West to really back Palestinian sovereignty.
so that is a great point that you did make about how Islam is intertwined to Hamas and how all Palestinians believe it is generally a religion conflict. And the only problem that I see with the hard borders is what to do with Jerusalem. Palestine won't be happy if they do not get Jerusalem. Israel won't be happy if they do not get Jerusalem. Jerusalem is a big city, and there's no real way you could evenly split it with both of the countries being happy.
You know, I think what they should do, and this is a kind of weird proposition because this hasn't really been done between two countries, but it has been done before between two states, in India, actually. So when the state of Telangana was created in India, Andhra Pradesh, which is what the original state was before Telangana broke off, and then the new Telangana state, they both shared the same capital of Hyderabad, and they both worked within it until a new capital was found for Andhra Pradesh. So I think something similar to that could be done with Palestine and Israel. I know that, you know, before there have been attempts to make Jerusalem a shared capital between them, but kind of maybe we should try to make Jerusalem semi-autonomous, right? Have some areas that are more controlled by Israel, other areas that are more controlled by Palestine, but then generally have a culture where within these two countries that Jerusalem is like a self-sufficient city that you know, creates its own culture away and separate from the two cities surrounding it. So it can be a place where Jews, Christians, and Muslims can all coexist and pray together and, you know, live in this very holy city in peace.
So, does anyone else have any closing topics about the whole Israel situation before we move on to the Robert Mueller investigation and the whole new developments that's been going on there?
No, I think that just about covers it.
Okay, so for our last article today, we have Mueller delivering reports about the Russia investigation to the Attorney General. So, does anyone want to explain this article?
Yeah, I think Ashish should do it. Do the last one.
My gosh. Okay, yeah, I can do it. So Mueller, as many of our viewers would know, the singular one viewer, you know, Mr. Sinclair and Anna White. There's been a report that Bob Mueller has been writing up. You know, some people, you know, it's just about Trump. and Russia, some small stuff,
Yo, get off of Brawl
all about
Stars,
collusion
dude.
and things. And this report was handed to Trump's attorney general. There isn't really much information about whether this information will be released to the public because, Trump said that he doesn't care, but I think a few weeks ago he said he does care. He's really flip-flopping about this, and it's pretty much left the decision to publicize this information to the attorney general. And this has all become really big news. We've been expecting this for a while, and it just dropped recently. Many Democrats in the Senate said that they're going to subpoena this document from Robert Mueller, or bring Robert Mueller to the stand to talk about what he found in the document under oath, or in the report under oath. What do you guys think about this? What do you guys think about what's gonna happen with this whole Russia situation and this the campaigns colluding and such? Seth, what are your thoughts?
So, basically, this whole collusion thing, it's gone on for a while, and at this point, it seems like there definitely is something there, and there really isn't anything outstanding. That it seems very slow paced when it's the whole media system has been building up to it, but in actuality, this is a long process. It's probably going to take a couple another months, maybe even a year, to truly find out what happened. But I feel like it should be about done, and we should know what the truth is in some time.
Do you think the truth, whatever it'll be, will have any impact on? Like what kind of impact do you think it would even have if we find out what actually happened? Because I mean, Trump's term is almost done.
I mean, that's only if he doesn't get reelected.
I think it's safe to say at this point that he won't.
I mean, it was also safe to say that Hillary Clinton was going to win, but you know what that turned out to be, bro.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
I think ultimately this Mueller investigation will end up to indictments to the people that are closest to Trump, but I don't think
that's already happened.
by the end. I think it's just going to keep happening. So, and I don't think it will ever lead to his indictment. And I think I don't think he's going to get reelected in the next election. So I don't think it's going to be an issue after that.
Too. Here's the thing, though. I mean, I don't think he's going to get indicted either because the FBI has, held a general stance that they're not going to indict a president. Whatever's going to happen is going to happen due to pressure from the legislative branch, the Senate and the House, calling impeachment trials if something actually does arise from this document. Personally, I do not believe that Trump knowingly instructed his campaign to collude with Russia. I feel like the whole campaign in general, their whole goal was just to get him elected, right? They didn't really have a plan for how to do it or after that. I basically think that Trump just said, do whatever you can to get me elected. That's your job. Go do it. And then, a lot of people in his campaign resulted to this. And I think it was just general ignorance within the campaign and the president himself. He probably didn't even know what he was doing was wrong. He just did it. And this will have dire consequences to what happens to the president. Akash, what are your thoughts?
Well, I feel like ignorance should not be an option. Like, for people of that level of wealth and level of political stature, Like, ignorance should not be an explanation for anything. I don't think any of them were ignorant on what they were doing. I think they knew very well what they were doing and what the outcome would be. But I mean, they did it anyway. That's more of a question of morality and how people with that much power and wealth can, take their advantages and turn them, even more.
So, what do you guys think? We've been talking about this Mueller investigation pretty much since we've started this podcast. Do you think that this whole investigation has been noteworthy to talk about? Because at this point, it seems like we're running this whole situation down to the ground.
Well, I think what we can see by the House's unanimous vote on releasing the Mueller investigation, it's still important, at least to these politicians, but more likely to the American public. It might not be as big as it was at the beginning of these talks or these podcasts, but I think it's still a big issue to many Americans.
Okay. So on that note, we'll move on to the critically acclaimed entertainment section that we did on our third podcast. So instead of talking about entertainment news, we'll be talking
March
about...
Madness!
Hell yeah, bro! We're talking about March Madness, bro!
Hell yeah, bro! I'm about to
Not
get
on
$60,
bro!
I'm about to get
Not on
$60 from all of you, bro.
Bro, Nevada tanked my bracket, bro. My bracket's garbage.
Bro, hell yeah, bro.
Wisconsin going out kind of killed me.
Presentation.
Yeah, but that's because you suck, so...
Nevada, Belmont, round of 16. Hold up a second.
Hey,
I think we should have a round of applause for the one person who didn't make a bracket this year. Abimanu.
Abimanu, let's get it.
Bro, hell yeah, bro.
Like, Loki has like $0 in cash, bro. His money's like.
Bro, I'll literally flex my wallet like on you like right now.
Bro, the money doesn't even matter. Look at me, we're just doing this for fun. There's no money in this.
What money?
Yeah, what money?
Yeah.
Sports betting is illegal, by the way.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hold up a second. It's illegal? Hold up. Those 12-year-olds will owe me my money back. Holy.
This is why we are not betting on who
We did
wins.
not spend. Okay, let's talk about what happened. Okay, so March Madness. You know.
Zion
Yeah,
Williamson,
explain that
bro.
one to me. What's that one, buddy?
I'm talking here.
And what about it?
March Madness happened, and then we're all going insane because we're about to not lose money.
What money?
No money. There's no money, dude.
You just,
Okay.
just don't
It's
talk
not
about
a
it.
tradition for people
Okay.
to use money to raise the stakes for March Madness. We did not do that because that's against the law.
Clearly.
They were still mad because there was so many upsets. Jacob, tell us the upsets.
So, let's go through the upsets. Are we doing today or overall?
Minnesota versus Louisville. What?
Wisconsin got upset. That one kind of killed me. I'm not even going to lie.
Oklahoma? Oklahoma?
That was not a big upset. I had that one on paper, bro. That doesn't count. Okay.
Yeah,
Bro, this is actually big brain, bro. Murray Straight.
Murray
Honestly,
State, oh my gosh.
dude,
Oof.
on paper, you have one of the greatest players in the college basketball scene right now on their team.
Yeah.
But everyone else on the team was yeah, but like that person really stepped up and took that team. for their first round win.
Amen. Can I get an amen? Then here, let's go through the upsets. We had Minnesota beating Louisville by 10. That's only a 3-seed difference. We had Baylor beating Syracuse. That's a 9 and an 8. Murray State. Holy. We had Florida beating Nevada. That's a 10 and a 7. We had Oklahoma smashing Mississippi by 25 points. That's an 8 and a 9. Oregon beating Wisconsin 72-54. That's 12 and 5.
72 to 54.
Yep.
They destroyed.
Yeah. So, and then Kansas State losing to UC Irvine. That's a 4 and a 13. We had Iowa beating Cincinnati. That's a 10 and a 7. And I think that's it for now. Yeah. Basically,
How are
my
the
bracket.
brackets doing?
Basically, we're all dead. Okay.
No, I'm doing fine. I don't know what you're on. Oh,
I'm
you're
doing
doing
fine.
fine.
I'm beating
I'm doing
you,
fine.
so
I'm
I don't know
doing
what you're
fine.
saying.
I think Sap is doing the best out of all of
You
us.
have 144 points remaining, bro. What are you on?
Who's first
How many
place?
points do you have? How many points do you have?
Who's first place right now, Jacob?
I have 164 left.
I am 100. I am first place right now. Sheesh. I have more points
No,
remaining.
you're tied, fam.
No, I have more points remaining, bro.
Who cares?
Zion Williamson about to go. Ooh,
How
on
many points
you,
do you
bro.
have, dude? Capital One doesn't care.
Capital One, we ain't splitting no profits, bro.
Bro, my lead costs more than your rent, dude.
Bro, you right, bro. I just took half a Zan 13 hours till I land, bro.
Have me out like a light, bro.
Like,
Bro, March Madness.
Hell yeah, dude.
yikes,
Alright,
bro.
Alright, guys.
Okay,
Jacob.
Jacob.
March Madness was lit.
Yeah.
I'd like to thank
Do you
all
still-
for popping by.
Bro, Ashish, stop. I'm not done. We ain't done. Was it you who said that Michigan State was gonna be the one who beats Duke?
Yeah.
No. I have MSU losing to Duke.
Okay, good. You're smart.
I miss you destroying Duke. Literally destroying Duke.
The fact that Michigan State almost lost the first round.
Bro, Duke's barely winning right now. It's 31-27, and that's a 1 versus a 16 seed. North Dakota State. Hold up a second. North Dakota State. Hold up. Hold up. We got a Dakota, and it's a state, bro. Hold up a second.
Hold on, let me. Oh,
Hey, don't worry. Zion Williamson, you're about to bust 5 shoes in this game, and he's about to kill everyone,
bro,
bro.
30-27. Okay, I can see that, bro. That's like 10 points. That's enough.
31-27, that's 4.
It's 38-27 now.
Yeah, 38-27. It's no biggie.
Nice, sizable 11 points.
Oh, okay.
It's no biggie, bro.
Bro, I'm telling you, Zion Williamson, he's my homie, bro.
Mississippi and Liberty, bro.
Mississippi trash, bro.
37-35.
Oh.
If you were not watching the Oklahoma game, you should have been, because, oof. Mississippi, garbage. Never going to be a basketball school ever again.
Where's the area Chicago?
Mississippi State for this one, bro.
Mississippi State. Hold up a second.
State, bro.
Get out of here.
Mississippi State looking.
Dog, well, you put Liberty winning that set?
No, I think I'll probably put Mississippi State.
Yeah.
Oh, what I
Pretty sure
don't
the
know
biggest
is I do not have Belmont in my round of 16.
Bro,
Crazy.
you never know.
Belmont, 11 seed Belmont. Hold up.
No. You have to be all this crap. Both of my teams lost by only like 2 points. Shut up, bro.
Bro, I'm pretty sure, I ain't gonna lie, bro.
I'm pretty sure an 8-year-old could guess better than you, Ashish. Ooh.
I ain't gonna lie.
Belmont? What the?
Dog.
We're talking about Belmont? Okay. Where is Belmont from? Let's take a look. Nowhere. Oh, that's crazy.
Okay,
Belmont,
guys.
a private liberal arts college in Nashville? Hold up.
Belmont and Maryland, 77-79. Bro, that is 1 3-pointer away. You gotta shut up, bro.
Who won though? That's what I'm wondering. That's what I'm wondering about.
Oh my god, bro.
Wait, Jacob, wasn't this the one where we had an easy layup and they didn't go for it?
Oh my god.
Holy.
They shot the 3 and they missed.
And oh my gosh, and he missed the free throw, bro. Oh my.
It's actually this is actually such a bad team.
Belmont. Okay.
Belmont was open, bro.
Alright, yo, what is this turn?
Belmont, bro, don't give me shit about Belmont, bro.
Okay,
I'd rather
bro.
been at North Dakota State than Belmont. Get that out of my face. Oh my gosh.
Okay, guys. As you can obviously see, that we are very hyped for March Madness, and it's just beginning. You know, Zion Williamson, we don't know how many shoes he's gonna bust, bro. We don't know how good Belmont's gonna do it, bro. North Dakota State out here, bro. But we just want to thank you guys for listening to our podcast. As always, I'm your host, Saf Khan, and we had Ashish Patel.
As always.
First time, bro.
As
This is your
always,
first time.
as always for episode 4, bro.
Okay,
As always for episode 4. Okay.
We ending it now by my decree. We
Bye bye. We had
See ya,
Ashish,
homies.
See
Abby,
ya.
Jacob, and Ashish.
No, Seth,
Hell yeah,
Shut
bro.
up,
Seth.
bro.
Keep it tight, bro. Keep it tight, bro. You're a good
Keep
host,
it
dude.
tight. You know how it is. Goodbye, bros.